What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TOJ Talks. I'm your host, Will Parkinson, at WillPod11 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. All32Pod, TOJ Pod as well. Michael Meegan cosplaying as Joe Caparoso on our Riverside at the moment. Meegs, how you doing? How you feeling? In the wise words of our King Joe.
I think Joe is probably answering his Saturday questions as we speak, so he can't be everywhere at once. So I'm happy you let me sub in today in that regard. Yeah, no, I never know when to change my name on this thing, so it's nice. If I'm gonna be someone, why not pick Joe?
Yeah, listen, it's not a bad thing to be Joe. I mean, there's no insomnia or Sunday or Saturday morning coffee this morning with the TOJ Talks. Instead, we're about 4 days into the league year at this point, almost, to the, exact time of 4 days. Just going to talk a little bit about what the Jets have done, what they haven't done thus far, and how we kind of feel leaving, heading into the first weekend of the NFL 2025 calendar. I guess I'll start with this, Meegs. It starts out, everything's about Fields, and rightfully so, right? The quarterback's obviously going to dominate what goes on. Frankly, the Jets could do nothing else, and if they hit on Justin Fields this offseason, that'd be amazing. And if they don't, kind of where everyone thought they would be, honestly, going into the offseason, now that obviously signed Monday, but officially he's chosen a number. He's not wearing 2 or 4, thank God, or 8. He's rocking 7. So some elite aura, some S tier aura from Justin Fields. What do you, now that you've sat on it for a few days, I know, again, you had this back in December. You were like, I don't know why, but looking at the options, this makes the most sense. I talked about it on the pod later that week. I asked some people, they're like, yeah, he's certainly an option if Aaron's not back. What do you now you've sat on it, where do you stand with the Field signing and, kind of how they started the offseason?
So the field signing, I am happy with. They just didn't have too many options. Like we're being realistic about it. I think as free agency has come, I think trading up for Cam Ward has went from like a slight possibility to like basically there's like a 0% chance like that's going to happen. And there's no real other creative solution besides him. I don't know if he's going to be Geno or he's going to be Darnold and he's going to be a reclamation project and we're going to be sitting here a year from now talking about extending Justin Fields and giving him that like 3 for 100 contract that we saw Baker get, that we saw Sam get. And we know Geno's going to sign for a pretty big number in Vegas probably in the next couple weeks. I don't know if that's going to happen. But I think Justin Fields is the quarterback where, he not that he's been humbled or anything like that, but like he never really has been like anointed the starter by a regime that believed in him. Like Chicago, Nagy wouldn't start him, and he was like their last ditch like effort for that regime. And they threw him in when they knew their jobs were on the line, and that thing didn't go so well. And then Eberflus and Poles came in and they didn't pick Fields. Fields wasn't their guy. They were going to rebuild the roster, and if they found a quarterback in the meantime, they were going to be whatever. Otherwise, they made a trade. They took Caleb. Pittsburgh, he went 4-2. He played his best ball, and he still got benched. Like maybe Tyrod comes in for him if he's bad, but like Tyrod isn't like a threat where like he's going to be breathing over his shoulder. Like this is Justin Fields' show, and we're going to see what he can do. So I'm happy they have that, and for a team that needs to run the ball, needs to play action their way to hopefully like a middling average 15th to 17th DVOA offense. I don't think there's a better guy in the market than Fields.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of, Jets fans are so fucking stupid because they're excited about Fields. First of all, I'd like you to point me in the direction of what the other options were that were even remotely exciting. Did you want Carson Wentz? Love Marcus Mariota. But the Jets already have Marcus Mariota and Tyrod Taylor, who's the fun, swaggy, backup quarterback that was once, a guy that you thought was a starter in the league, and he's a great mentor and the whole thing. They already had that in house. So Mariota didn't make any sense. And after that, I love Cooper Rush, but Cooper Rush is good if you have a Dak Prescott in there that, could be injured at any moment. Like Cooper Rush would have been great to have last year or 2 years ago when Aaron Rodgers got hurt. But outside of that, again, the Jets didn't ruin Geno. We've been over this a million times. I saw, our boys Theo Ash and gang, saying how much the Jets ruined Geno. I mean, no offense, dude. If you pay your debts, you don't get your jaw broken. Kind of simple as that. Yeah, the Jets ruined Sam and the whole thing. We've been over that a million times. But again, these guys are on their third or fourth stops. And it's weird how Justin Fields now on his third stop. This is where it'll click or it won't. I think this is, not to sound cheesy, but it is judgment day in a lot of ways for Justin Fields, where He's paid starter money, although it's the cheapest starter of a non-rookie in the league. But we don't have to point out that context. And the offense should be built around him. It's an offense that's going to be a lot of play action, a lot of running, a lot of smash mouth, hopefully really good defense, which should rebound even if there's a little less brand name talent. Like the defense should be better just based on like coaching and health alone. And I look at it and I don't see the downside because if Fields sucks, which there's a chance he sucks, like there is, you pull him for Tyrod, who's a 500 starter in the league, or if Tyrod also sucks, you're picking in the top 6 or 7 anyways, and you probably have your shot to trade up for your guy and say like quarterbacks are one issue. Like you're back to this year with options. And if Fields is good, he's the best value starter in the league next year. That's not a rookie, right? He's a guy that I talked about this morning. He can be restructured next year and cost the Jets $8 million again, like if he's good, right? And then you're like, wow, we can make a lot of moves. Rodgers money, the cap went up, and we have the Rodgers money's still there, but like we were prepared for it, and we got rid of the Devontae dead money, all these guys, and like we're in a good spot. So I'm not worried about the quarterback stuff because at least Fields will be fun. He'll probably be frustrating at points for sure. There'll be throws where you're like, dude, like we're not going to hit that. And there's other times where you're like, this is one of the best athletes that's ever played, if not the best athlete that's ever played quarterback for the Jets. I'm not counting Michael Vick 8 years past his prime. Meegs, I want to shift to just a little bit of there are a few things. They've done a few bigger things. Resigning Sherwood was, again, I don't know if he's a $15 million a year player, but that's what the market dictates. And they don't really have a choice, especially given what they've done. They've cut Mosley, obviously. And outside of that, like you couldn't go in with Quincy at 29 and nobody. I felt like that was a bad move. The Stevens thing is interesting because in some ways you could talk yourself into, hey, good coaching, solid player in 2023. The corner market's bonkers anyways. But I kind of wish he was playing safety because him and Cisco actually could play well off each other. What do you make of those? Those are the only other two big money moves the Jets have made. What have you made of those two, kind of sitting on those for a week now?
Yeah, I mean, with Stevens is probably it's probably the biggest bet the regime has made that people are like, maybe we'll see. Like he did have a good 2023. He had a down 2024. I think the position in the NFL where someone could be great one year, worse the next, and rebound, and you have your best chance of that is corner. It's a very volatile position. So if you're going to make a bet like this, I don't mind it being at corner. With Cisco's a great, I think probably maybe my favorite dart throw that they've done, where it's like I know he has some warts. I know he's super talented. The Jets, for as good as their version of the secondary had been under Saleh with Sauce, with DJ Reed, with Michael Carter, they just didn't take the ball away enough. And Cisco, yeah, he has his ups and his downs. That guy has consistently always had his hands around the ball when he was in college, when he was in the pros. Like he's a guy who can do that. Where I mean, our best ball hawking corner was Brandon Eccles. Like, let's be real, and he's CB4. I think Jordan Whitehead had what? I think Jordan Whitehead had more picks than Sauce has in his career in Monday Night Football against the Bills. Like
Same
I
number.
think like yeah, it's the same number. Like you need different body types in this secondary. So I liked that from the Cisco perspective. And Stevens, the Ravens, it's not easy to play defensive back for the Ravens. The way they're very aggressive, they play a lot of man coverage. Jamar Chase can make anyone look silly. Like I do think there is a world where Brandon Stevens is fine, and I think more than anything, they wanted to go like you paid you paid Carr as a slot, you paid we hope they're going to pay Sauce. We think they're going to pay Sauce. Sauce wants to be here. It seems like a contract that both sides do eventually want to get done, so we think it's going to happen. And it's just I feel like so many people when they see like I don't know the NFL teams they have a star at the position and they can constantly cycle through the people around them, and it's just like well yeah they're going to be good because they're playing next to these people. It's a little different at defensive back. So much is based off communication and continuity that sometimes yeah would it be nice to just throw Eccles in there? Sure, but we haven't seen him with a real sample size. And if you don't want to play the 1 year game at corner, you want to you want a guy who will come here for multiple years and might be good, and then can really like this free agency period to me is like the Jets are just trying to get competent, and then if they can get competent in 2025, their continuity can take them to the playoffs and farther in 2026. That's kind of what I see this plan being.
Yeah, the Stevens thing, I think Look, I asked so many people about Eccles over the last 6 weeks, and like I like Eccles too. Like really unique sized corner, super long arms, but like like not a tall dude, but like just an interesting for an outside corner. Was kind of built more like a slot guy, was able to play outside. Are we sure Brandon Eccles was playing 17 straight games? Because every time he plays, he gets hurt. And let's just be honest. Like part of the reason he was fun was because he'd come in these random games and like basically was to his daddy. But other than that, like he unfortunately is a guy that was hurt all the time. He's every time you go to camp, every practice, he's hurt. Like it just and the Jets know him better than anybody, right? That those people have been in the building with him for 4 years and might say, yeah, he's a good player and we like him in a reserve spot, but we don't trust him enough to be a starter to stay healthy. The whole Ravens defense sucked last year for like the first 12 weeks of the year. And then they had the softest schedule against offenses, and all of a sudden they looked good again. And then in the playoffs, they get up a zillion points to the Bills. So like I don't know. I don't know if we can just sit there and be like Brandon Stevens is just so bad. Like everyone was bad on the Ravens. Kyle Hamilton didn't have a good year last year comparatively to what I picked him to win Defensive Player of the Year on my other show, and nowhere close to that. Justin Matabuke got paid like nowhere close to the same player. They lose Clowney. They lose like all Geno Stone like ends up, going. Marcus Williams crashes out and just becomes like a guy who gets cut after 2 years. So like my point being, everyone had a bad year last year. Going from one of the bright defensive minds in the league that was a proven bright defensive mind is Zach Orr, who might be a good DC down the line, but last year was a very bad DC the first 12 weeks. My point being, like, maybe everyone talks the way everyone talks about him is really good athlete, good technique. Everything makes sense. He just struggles to find the football, which is I know no one wants to hear that, but maybe he's a guy that's just not meant to play man the entire game. Press man might not be his thing. And the Jets are able to, with Sauce, who press man very much should be his thing. And you can press in the slot with Michael Carter, and maybe you run a lot of stuff and you run cover 0 to one side and you run some zone to the other side, or you want to like mix and match different coverages. Sauce can travel and be locked up, and you leave Stevens in more of a position of like, he'll get the safety help from Cisco, or maybe you move him to safety and he can be, able to, I don't know. My point being, I have to see the years in terms of like the way it's structured before I totally shit on the move. If it's really a 2-year, $13 million deal or $23 million deal, like it's a little easier to palate than 3 year. You know what I mean? My point being, like, I just got to wait and see. You mentioned Cisco. I'm excited about the Cisco signing for a lot of reasons. Everyone again on the Jags had a bad year last year. Like they basically all quit week 4. And I'm not, by the way, not saying that's a good thing. That there's not a reason to say he's a good player. But he was really good for 3 years before that and creates turnovers. He borders that Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph line of we kind of line to play 90s football, but we don't really care, and we'll take an ejection here or there. We'll take a hit here or there to send a message that, like, we're not going to get, we're not going to mess around instead of Meegs. I don't know if you feel the same way about this. It's a weird, not comp, but a weird kind of way to phrase it. Like the Jets have gotten plenty of, personal fouls over the last 10 years, right? We're not dumb. How many of those do you feel like sent a message? I don't feel like very many of them. It's like ticky-tack roughing the passers that are stupid, or Michael Clemens jumping on a pile, but like there's no message sent. Andre Cisco is like, I'm going to put my head through your chest, and if I get tossed, I get tossed, and we'll live with the consequences, but you're not going to run over the middle of the same. I just don't feel like they've had enough of that. You know what I mean? Like I feel like he's somebody that can be a little bit of an enforcer on this defense.